Sound BBC Radio Surrey, and it's time for today's Sound Advice, which is about divorce and the processes that are involved in actually getting divorced, but also what options people may have if they think their marriage is at a point of no return. Joining us today is Sophie Campbell-Adams, a solicitor with Britton Time, who are based in Brighton and Mayfair. Hi, Sophie.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for your time today and your expertise as well. That's what it's all about in our Sound Advice. So first of all, my question is, what are divorce rates doing at the moment? Heading up or heading down?
Unfortunately, there has been an increase in divorce over the last few years, which, well, it could be a combination of many things, not just the new no-fault divorce process. In my opinion, a combination of COVID, the no-fault process, and the cost of living crisis has caused the divorce rates to increase.
Right. So some of the factors there could be, more stresses on relationships by the sound of things, not just the personal between you and your partner, but actually other factors as well.
Yes, the external factors certainly do all have an impact on a relationship. I mean, dealing with COVID first, the world being shut in and having to be with your partner 24/7 certainly had a detrimental effect. Those little quirks that you could tolerate before as you were away from them for such a long period of time during the day at work, for example, were now no longer bearable and led to fighting and eventually the relationship breakdown.
Okay, so if people think they're in that situation, are there any steps we could take before we seek legal advice or actually say, right, now is time for us to go our separate ways? Would you suggest anything first before you get to a divorce situation?
I think certainly, depending on where you are in that relationship breakdown, that there are steps that can be taken. Couples counselling is an option that I know some couples have explored, and it has led to them getting back together. I think first and foremost, getting sound legal advice is of the utmost importance, just so you know what position you're in if things were to end up in divorce.
I suppose with the state of a lot of families' finances at the moment, then money becomes an even bigger issue in a divorce, because actually if you're living in one house now and you're going to go to living in two separate places, then actually that might be quite difficult for a lot of couples.
Yes, it is difficult when looking at it as a whole, when taking the finances into the equation as well. That leads, me to talk about the cost of living crisis. That, again, has added additional stress and pressure to a marriage that wasn't there before. Money is now getting tighter. Everyone's tightening up their belts. And if the parties don't agree on how to spend their money, then, of course, it's going to lead to tension, additional stress and arguing. And the cost of living crisis certainly has had an impact on people taking that step to divorce. Like you said, you have that combined income. Now that's going to be split between two houses. Is one party going to rent? Is one party going to buy? It's an impossible situation for couples to be in.
So into your kind of real area of expertise, Sophie, and actually when we get to the point where we say, okay, this relationship is no longer working, sadly we are going to split up, we are going to divorce, what are the sort of first steps? Just talk us through the things we need to do.
Of course. So first steps, as I said before, get that sound legal advice. Go speak to a solicitor. I would recommend going to a solicitor and not the Citizens Advice Bureau, just to get that proper legal advice and feel secure in the advice that you're getting. The solicitors talk through your options, one of which may be a form of mediation. So you go and speak with a mediator and try and resolve things that way. Alternatively, you do have the court route to fall back on.
Okay. And then the no-fault divorces, which you've mentioned already, but also we've spoken about a few times on the programme. I don't think it's been on the books for a whole year yet, has it?
I believe it's almost coming to its year anniversary.
Yeah, it's about that, isn't it?
It's about that now, yes. The no-fault divorce process did make it a lot easier for couples to separate without the need to blame the other. Also, the process is a lot simpler, with many couples doing it themselves. And a joint application was also introduced, which means the parties can jointly apply to divorce, with 26% of all divorce applications being done this way. In my experience, I had several couples wait for the new process to come in so they could divorce without apportioning blame to the other. And I think that's another reason why there's been this sudden increase ever since the no fault came in.
I see. So do you think that's enabled people to separate more amicably?
Yes, definitely. Because previously there were 5 reasons for divorce. One of them was unreasonable behaviour, which was the most common. But there must have been that element of blame. One party must unfortunately be made out to be the bad guy. Even if it wasn't necessarily the case, there still had to be that element of blame.
Okay, and what do you think the sort of the best way to get to a sort of settlement and agreement where you can go your separate ways and not have it being really rancorous or really falling out with somebody that you've loved for a period of time?
It's difficult because, every couple is different. We see some couples that are, incredibly amicable and they want to resolve it as quickly as possible. They want to be fair and they don't want to see the other, left with nothing. Whereas some couples, if it has been a really, really bad separation, there is that element of I want to make them suffer, which unfortunately in the family courts is not possible. That the courts are so focused on what is fair and making sure that both parties have enough to continue living.
Sophie, thank you so much for your time and advice today. We'll speak again.
You are more than welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for now. Sophie Campbell-Adams from Britton Time, based in Brighton and Mayfair, with our sound advice today. 12 minutes to